Welcome to Time to Watch. Today, we're looking at a watch that takes the concept of a dive watch and pushes it into an entirely different category. This isn't a watch designed simply to look like a professional dive instrument. It's a watch built around one question. How far can you take the engineering of a mechanical dive watch when absolutely nothing is allowed to be an afterthought? This is the SEAL instrument OmniDiver MK2, and the example we're looking at today is particularly impressive. A massive 46mm grade 5 titanium case, finished in black DLC, paired with a Swiss automatic movement and one of the most unmistakable instrument watch designs I've ever encountered. And with a retail price of $6,695, this certainly isn't an inexpensive micro brand. So the question is the OmniDiver MK2 actually worth the money? Let's find out. SEAL Instrument is an American watch company based in Tucson, Arizona, founded around a very simple philosophy: function first. The company began with founder Andrew McLean's desire to create a truly high-performance dive watch, not simply another luxury diver. Production of the original OmniDiver MK1 began in 2018, and SEAL has taken an unusually hands-on approach to manufacturing. The company machines many of its metal components in-house, including its grade 5 titanium cases and components of its proprietary bracelet system. And that's an important distinction. SEAL isn't simply taking an existing case design, putting a logo on the dial, and calling it an American micro brand. The OmniDiver is the result of an engineering-first approach to watchmaking. And that philosophy becomes obvious the moment you pick one up. The first thing that hits you is the size. The case measures 46mm, or approximately 47.5mm including the bezel. Lug to lug is 53mm, thickness is 17mm, and lug width is 22mm. These dimensions aren't simply about wrist presence. The OmniDiver was engineered around extreme durability and functionality. And despite its incredible 6,100-meter water resistance rating, the case doesn't require a traditional helium escape valve. That alone tells you just how seriously SEAL approached the engineering. The case is constructed from grade 5 titanium, also known as Tin-6Al-4V. It's an aerospace-grade material prized for its combination of strength, corrosion resistance, and relatively low weight. And despite the large dimensions, this watch weighs approximately 152 grams, including the strap. That's impressive. And this particular example takes things another step further with a black DLC coating. DLC, or diamond-like carbon, is an extremely hard surface coating that gives the titanium a stealthy black appearance, while adding additional resistance to surface wear. And personally, I think the DLC works exceptionally well on this watch. The combination of the large case, black finish, oversized bezel, and highly technical dial makes the OmniDiver look less like a traditional wristwatch, and more like something that belongs inside a piece of specialized diving equipment. And that's exactly what SEAL was going for. The bezel is one of the areas where SEAL really separates itself from conventional dive watches. Rather than relying on the typical click spring found in many mechanical divers, the OmniDiver uses a much more sophisticated system. The bezel incorporates high-precision silicon nitride ceramic and Teflon thrust ball bearings with dual piston indexing, providing 120 positions. And that translates into something you can actually feel. There's a precision to this bezel action that's difficult to describe until you've experienced it. There's very little of that loose, rattly sensation you get from some traditional dive watch bezels. Instead, every movement feels deliberate. It turns when you want it to and stays put when you don't. The tolerances are incredibly tight, and the entire system feels exceptionally engineered. In my experience, this is one of the best bezel systems I've ever encountered on a dive watch. But there is a trade-off. Because of the precision of this system, the bezel can occasionally become difficult to operate if saltwater crystals or sand work their way into the mechanism. And SEAL is very clear that this is a piece of dive equipment that requires proper care. The company recommends regularly rinsing the watch with fresh water while slowly rotating the bezel. They even recommend showering with the watch and rotating the bezel in the shower on a weekly basis. And yes, you can even give it a little soap or shampoo. Personally, I've also found that warm water and a little dish soap can work extremely well for keeping the system operating smoothly. The important thing is to understand that this bezel isn't designed to be spun quickly and loosely like a conventional dive watch bezel. It's a precision mechanism. Treat it that way, and it rewards you. Another feature divers will appreciate is how far the bezel extends beyond the case. That gives you plenty of surface area to grip, particularly when wearing gloves or trying to operate the watch underwater. And once again, It demonstrates the Seal philosophy. Everything has a purpose. The dial is where the OmniDiver becomes unmistakably Seal. It's busy, it's unconventional, and I absolutely love it, especially seeing the American flag on the dial. Instead of trying to imitate a Submariner or a Seamaster, Seal created something that looks like an actual instrument. The oversized luminous markers provide excellent legibility, while the in-house lume uses strontium aluminate, which is an advanced photoluminescent phosphor that produces a bright green glow. The internal 24-hour scale adds another layer of information without compromising the primary time display. And the oversized hands are designed for one thing: instant readability. At depth, particularly in low visibility, legibility matters far more than elegance. And the OmniDiver's dial is designed around that principle. The watch doesn't ask you to admire the dial. It asks you to read it instantly. Protecting that dial is a massive 5.5mm shock-isolated, floating Kirapala sapphire crystal. Sapphire gives you the scratch resistance expected from a serious modern tool watch. But Seal's engineering goes considerably further than simply choosing sapphire. The company developed a highly specialized approach to protecting the movement and dial from environmental abuse. The movement and dial assembly are isolated from the outer case to help mitigate the effects of shock and impact. And this is one of the things I find most fascinating about Seal. Most companies talk about shock resistance. Seal actually engineers around it. And then there's the 8mm crown, positioned at 6 o'clock, immediately makes the OmniDiver recognizable. But once again, the unusual design has a very practical reason. By placing the crown between the lugs, Seal protects it from impacts while also keeping it from digging into your wrist. It's large, heavily textured, and extremely easy to grip. This is exactly the kind of crown you want on a serious dive instrument, especially when you're wearing gloves. The machining is excellent, and the crown engagement feels every bit as precise as the rest of the watch. Inside the OmniDiver MK2 is a Swiss Elite SW200-1 automatic movement, offering approximately 38 hours of power reserve. And I think the movement choice makes perfect sense. Could Seal have used something more exotic? Absolutely. But the SW200-1 is proven, serviceable, reliable, and widely supported. For a watch built around the concept of a professional instrument, reliability and serviceability arguably matter more than having an exotic movement hidden inside the case. Seal also regulates its movements in-house, reinforcing the company's focus on actual performance rather than simply chasing impressive specifications. Turn the watch over, and you get another reminder that this isn't a conventional luxury diver. The caseback continues the extreme engineering philosophy and integrates seamlessly with the case. It's secured by 12 screws, and the engraving is exceptionally detailed. The finishing and precision are impressive. Everything about the OmniDiver communicates the same message. It's built to survive, and that's really the personality of this watch. It's unapologetically overbuilt. There are videos showing the watch being dropped onto concrete, driven over by a jeep, and struck with a large hammer. Seal even describes the watch as essentially bomb-proof, with a claimed crush resistance of 10,000 psi. Whether you ever put the watch through anything remotely approaching those conditions is beside the point. The engineering is the point. The watch is paired with an isofrane strap, and it fits the OmniDiver extremely well. I use isofrane straps on many of my watches because, in my opinion, they're among the very best dive straps available. Seal also offers its proprietary wave lock bracelet, which is one of the more interesting bracelet systems I've encountered on a dive watch. Unfortunately, I haven't seen one with the same DLC treatment as this particular case. The wave lock system is designed to provide a high degree of articulation and micro-adjustment while also incorporating a dive extension. Once again, Seal refuses to accept the conventional solution simply because that's how everyone else does it. Now for a wrist shot on my 7.25-inch wrist. If you're looking for a discreet everyday dive watch, this isn't it. The OmniDiver has presence. A lot of presence. But this is where titanium makes a huge difference. Grade 5 titanium gives you the size and strength without the wrist weight you'd experience with an equivalently massive stainless steel watch. And the unusual lug design helps the watch wear smaller than the 46mm diameter would suggest. That's something prospective buyers really need to understand. This is a large watch, but it isn't necessarily an uncomfortable watch. Here's where I think Seal gets really interesting. There are hundreds of dive watches that claim to be tough. There are watches rated to 300 meters, 500 meters, 1,000 meters, 6,000 meters and beyond. But water resistance alone doesn't make a great tool watch. Seal attacks the problem from multiple directions. Water resistance. shock resistance, magnetic resistance, bezel precision, crown protection, legibility, weight, ergonomics, and even the bracelet and strap attachment system. That's why the OmniDiver feels different. It's not simply a watch with an extreme depth rating. It's an engineering project that happens to tell time. But let's be fair. The OmniDiver isn't perfect for everyone. First is the size. At 46mm, this is a large watch by modern standards. If you're accustomed to 40mm dive watches, this is going to feel massive. Second is the price. At $6,695, you're entering territory occupied by some very established Swiss and Japanese brands. And that means Seal has to justify the price through engineering, materials, manufacturing, and performance, not brand prestige. Third is the aesthetics. This isn't a watch that disappears underneath a shirt cuff. It's aggressive, it's industrial, and it's intentionally unconventional. If you want subtle luxury, look elsewhere. But if you want something that looks like it was designed by engineers who were given permission to ignore conventional watchmaking, this may be exactly what you're looking for. So, what are my final thoughts? The Seal Instrument OmniDiver Mark II is one of the most fascinating and most aggressively over-engineered deep diver watches I've ever encountered. And I think the reason is simple. It doesn't try to be something it isn't. It isn't trying to be a Rolex Submariner. It isn't trying to be an Omega Seamaster. And it certainly isn't trying to look like a traditional luxury dive watch. It's trying to be an extreme performance mechanical tool watch. The Grade 5 titanium construction gives it exceptional strength without making an already large watch unbearably heavy. The DLC coating gives this particular example a fantastic tactical appearance while providing excellent resistance to surface wear. The bezel system is genuinely unusual and, in my opinion, among the best in the industry. The crown placement is incredibly practical. The dial is exceptionally legible. The shock isolation system demonstrates just how far Seal was willing to go with the engineering, and the entire watch reflects the company's function-first philosophy. There are plenty of watches that are tougher than you will ever need. The OmniDiver takes that concept and turns it into the entire identity of the watch, and that's what makes it special. The Seal Instrument OmniDiver Mark II isn't for everyone, but if you're the kind of person who looks at a normal dive watch and thinks that's great, but how far can we take this? Then Seal Instrument may have built exactly the watch you've been looking for. It's big, it's extreme, it's expensive, it's unconventional, and it's completely unapologetic about all four. In short, I believe the OmniDiver Mark II represents one of the most serious examples of American-engineered mechanical dive watch designs available today. And for someone looking for an extreme, purpose-built tool watch, I can absolutely see the appeal. This isn't just another deep diver. It's American engineering taken to the extreme, and that's what makes the Seal Instrument OmniDiver Mark II so special. If you enjoyed this review, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe to Time to Watch for more deep dives into the world of high performance and extreme dive watches.